India retail is a $1 trillion market in 2025, and by 2030 it is touching 1.95, almost 2 trillion.
Omnichannel is going to be the nidus of this growth, and the reason is the consumers.
And what does omnichannel mean to you?
Stop thinking channel first but more consumer first. Be present where your consumer is wanting you to be, the way they want to interact. Omnichannel is just not about multiple channels. It's a very structured way of building layers and layers of communication as well as interactions. Omnichannel is pretty much every brand today, if not today but tomorrow, will be omnichannel in their journey.
What are myths you have personally thought कि यार मैं तो गलत सोच रहा था?
I think I never thought that retail can expand so fast. The second most common fascinating thing is the amount of analytics possible today in the offline setup. Analytics has been a very, very core and important part to online journeys. Now imagine when you've also got tons of data in a structured way, then you are shifting your focus from channel first to a consumer first straight up. Because no matter which channel you are on, you're getting great insights on the consumer behavior.
Brand used to start online, they will go offline. Is that still happening?
Offline is as much as part of the PML now.
Can you take a specific example?
Gynoveda. Gynoveda started from online and went and established the first clinic. In the last 3 years, they've scaled rapidly to about 60-65 clinics. Consumers want to interact in a non-judgment, empathy way.
When an online company goes offline, बढ़ जाता है AOV. I have seen other ways also. That's a brand which is into wedding wear. When they went online, their conversion and AOV dropped. So offline they had an AOV of 30-40,000, online जाके 10,000 के नीचे आया. One of the bigger realization is the customer is same. We start trying to manage channels, and when you manage channels, you will actually screw the customer journey. It's just the money or it's the partnership.
Capital has become a commodity at the end of the day. Working in the trenches with the founders, playbooks, our ecosystem connects, our advisors, we go deep in engaging with these founders.
One KPI founders really underappreciate. One book which has really inspired you. One brand which you missed investing in and you deeply regret. Want to close it by helping you to summarize the VC playbook for building a consumer brand, especially in this whole omnichannel ecosystem. If you could summarize it.
I think there are different strokes to it. Product journey. The second is the...
So welcome to a fresh episode of Dilse Omni Talks. Today's episode is very special. Today we have Ankur Khaitan, who is a principal at Fireside Ventures. I had the opportunity to meet Ankur 2 years ago when I got introduced with him through Sleeps Company's founder Priyanka Salot. And ever since we have been meeting every quarter or so and having deeper discussions about retail, omnichannel, the venture ecosystem. And I thought, why not shoot it on a podcast? So welcome to the Dilse Omni Talks, Ankur.
Thanks for having me and looking forward to the conversation.
So Ankur, you have been into this VC ecosystem for almost 4 years now?
Yes.
And you started, and before that you were in consulting. So how has been the transition from consulting into this, and what has been your learning in this journey?
It's been a very interesting one. I think consulting tells you what are the opportunities as well as challenges for very scaled companies. By the time usually companies start working with consultants, they have been into the business for a long time. So what they're really looking for is a complete, either a tectonic shift in what they've been doing. At times it also becomes incremental. I think the startups operate in a very amoebic way, which means there are a lot of uncertainties and they thrive in uncertainties. So for me, the journey has been a very structured, settled way of working with companies to seeing how our startups can thrive in the uncertainties. So that's been the journey. It's also, investing gives you a very closer view to almost being in the fences to see how very interesting and great founders are building companies for tomorrow.
So you mentioned about Fireside. So if you could tell me, what all types of companies does Fireside invest in, and how much is omnichannel a part of it?
So I think in today's world, if you're investing in consumer brands, omnichannel is pretty much every brand today, if not today but tomorrow, will be omnichannel in their journey. So I don't see them as two distinct buckets. Every brand we invest in starts a journey either on online first or sometimes an online and offline journeys together. So eventually all brands as they scale, we're seeing them go omni in a very, very faster way than what we've seen in the past. So I would say it's a complete actually overlap.
Okay. So what does omni mean to you?
So I think, while everybody believes that Omni is about being present in multiple channels. I think what's happened in the last few years, especially, is founders and brands have evolved to stop thinking channel first, but more consumer first. What it means is be present where your consumer is wanting you to be and interact with them in the right shopping environment, the way they want to interact. And hence, omni-channel is just not about multiple channels and where brands are present. It's a very structured way of building layers and layers of communication as well as interactions, because ultimately, and especially the new age brands, are selling concepts. They're trying to help consumers understand why they are different. So while there is a world of Instagram, while there's a world of discovery, there are multiple channels where consumers are comfortable, and these are different cohorts. Sometimes channels play a role of acquisition, sometimes the channel play a role of retention. So it is, almost think of it as a bag of surprises where every channel behaves differently. Brands meaningfully are now seeing how one operates in tandem with the other. And that is where efficiency comes into play. So to put it, in a very crisp way, omni-channel for us is about meaningfully constructing different shopping environments for your brand to talk to consumers at large, where a channel could have specific strategy, a channel could have specific problems. But if you zoom out, the brand at the core of it remains the same. The proposition remains the same.
And can you take a specific example, whichever is coming to your mind, who has gone through this journey, maybe from a portfolio, maybe not from a portfolio?
I think the most interesting example for me is Gynoveda.
Acha.
Gynoveda started as a...
So if you could, before we go into it, what does Gynoveda do?
Sure. So Gynoveda is, a very interesting company which combines Ayurveda with the new age tech to solve for women's health. The primary focus of the company is fertility. Earlier, the company was operating digital only, where they had a consultation layer and the product suite, where they were engaging with the consumers online. They were going through a period test to assess where the problem is. And then meaningfully, a health coach would talk to these consumers, take them through the journey. The realization is that there were a lot of fence-sitters when it came to believing and adopting Ayurveda, as well as they wanted somebody to talk to. A doctor, a gynac is what they were looking for. And it's almost, and as Vishal says, is changing the wheels in the air. When they started from online and went and established the first clinic, and in the last 3 years, they've scaled rapidly to about 60-65 clinics, which in healthcare has not been heard of in the past.
Yeah.
What it did was it figured out that the consumers want to interact in a non-judgment, empathy way. They want to be heard in an environment where they are comfortable. They want to establish relationship with a gynac and a doctor, and hence the right channel for that consultation or conversation rather was offline. So they almost pivoted from an online only to offline, and largely now offline only, is where they've created that environment where the consumer wants to be. And there are many, many such examples of how brands like the sleep company, for example, in the portfolio, have gone from creating the right channel where the consumer wants to look, feel, touch, and then eventually make a purchasing decision. You've been a part of the sleep company journey. You would have seen how meaningfully the two channels interact with each other.
Yeah. And especially, anything which is more than 4,000-5,000 rupees and which has more of touch and feel, a discussion needed, has to have a physical touch point. Now it could be on call, it could be on a video call, or it could be in a clinic or a store. So like buying a gadda is not easy. You have to go set, you don't know. It's like then nice photographs. So yeah, so
I think it's also moved to experience. I
Yes.
think when you talk about concept selling, if a consumer has experienced the product, the purchase decision it becomes much more easier, because the consumer is seeing the product, but more importantly, experience the concept in terms of what this brand is offering to me as a value proposition. When you go to spend 30% of your life on that mattress, you've got to make that decision after you've tried the product. And what earlier used to exist was largely the dealers network, where the brands in the mattress space were interacting with the consumers via a distribution channel, which still exists. But the concept of saying, here is my story and I want to bring out that narrative in a very interesting way and in an experiential way is where Sleep Company opened stores, and it's been
Yeah.
a journey.
Yeah, I think they're closing to about 200 stores.
Roundabout, yes.
Roundabout, yeah. So, Ankur, I was recently reading this report which talks about that India retail is a $1 trillion market in 2025, and by 2030 it is touching 1.95, almost 2 trillion. So, if you could tell me what is the omni-channel or Fireside contribution to it, and how big you are seeing this opportunity to be for you guys?
I think omni-channel is going to be the nidus of this growth, going from 1 trillion, 1.1 trillion to about $2 trillion. And the reason is the consumers. And the reason is very simple, that today consumers are very, very comfortable discovering brands online, going offline and experiencing them, and shopping offline, and vice versa. So I think the engagement models between online and offline is blurred to the extent that consumers will interact with brands on the channel of their choice. And hence it is not about channel first, but it's more about consumer first. And given how we are seeing founders build their omni-channel pipe in a very meaningful way, I think the new age brands for sure are looking to gain a large share of this omni-channel retail growth that's going to play out in the next few years.
In fact, I see there are two things which are happening in this growth. One is unorganized retail, which is about 85%, will come down to 65%. Then also it's growing 50%. And this whole omni play which is coming in.
Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you, if I just look at within the portfolio, over the next 4-5 years, my hunch is our portfolio brands will open north of 500 EBOs.
Wow.
And to me, that's telling a story of how much contribution omni-channel brands at large are going to do to this whole retail growth story. So I think a large part of this growth is going to come on back of omni-channel. And the reason is because today consumers are very comfortable discovering new brands, new concepts, new products, but also openness to try. Now, what it means is, and as the ecosystem has evolved, as brands and founders have tried out, built playbooks on the omni-channel side, they're very comfortable taking it offline at the right time with the right strategy. And that to me is going to be driving a large part of the retail growth. And we're seeing this play out, whether it's high streets, whether it's malls. The new age brands are the new anchors to drive footfall. And hence, in fact, it's also the traditional brands, right? If you really think about brands which have existed for a long time, have built their digital side. So today, every brand in almost all categories is talking about an omni-channel play. And hence a large part of the growth on retail is going to come on back of omni-channel, the way I see it.
Yeah, because people are spending 3 hours on social media, 7 hours on internet. So it's the new TV, and that's where the discovery is happening.
That's right.
In fact, I was talking to somebody who's into this wedding retail, and they were saying that from their social media, people take screenshots and then they say कि यार मुझे ये वाला कुर्ता चाहिए, ये वाला लहंगा चाहिए, and to different people. So if there is a buy button there, you then go and then book it and then you try it, because there's a lot of customization of size. So if you want to get discovered, otherwise people will forget you.
Yeah.
In the world of omni-channel brands, brands used to start online, then they will establish online, and then they will go offline. So is that still happening, or it's like you go online and you quickly find the PMF and then you quickly pivot to offline? So where are you seeing this trend happening?
So I think the difference now is offline is as much as part of the PMF now, I would say. There is a lot of playbooks which have got created. There are many, many examples across categories where brands have demonstrated very meaningfully and efficiently that there is a omni-channel retail playbook where there is method to the madness. B, I think a lot of ecosystems warmed up to that idea, whether it's the mall operators, whether it's the high street landlords, etc. C, I think the pipe around this whole online driving footfalls to offline is becoming real. And there are many bunch of such other things. So what's happened is that it is, while it may still sound sequential, and there are some categories where, again, the nuance comes into play where offline is faster than some of the other ones. But the whole playbook of how do you meaningfully engage the audience online, get them to the right shopping environment in the offline space, that part of it has started to happen much early as compared to what we saw in maybe the early days of maybe 2022, prior to 2022.
So I was speaking to Sumit recently, and he said they opened their first store in their, I think so, second year of operation or first year of operation. And Numi is one of your portfolio companies. So how do you get that confidence कि मतलब अभी तो online का PMF is yet to really look at and then offline. So
I think there are various ways to draw out the confidence. I think one is, how is the founder thinking about the offline side of it? It's very easy to get carried away with one store in Bangalore could be replicated into one store in Delhi. But we are very strong believers of the fact that there is a cluster-based approach where you have not only a cultural context to the city, but more importantly, draw out a playbook of, can I have multiple stores in the same city without cannibalization, where I am not only able to meaningfully use online to engage with the audience, drive footfalls, but more importantly, also drive conversions. How does your basket size look, or basket ladder, the shopping basket look online versus offline? It is not about online versus offline really, but more importantly, how are the two complementing each other? So I think a lot of metrics in terms of what is playing out on a day-to-day for the store. And we believe that, one store or 3 stores essentially is what it will take to start building confidence around what truly could be imagined then as a larger playbook, as well as from going from 1 to 50 to 100. Yes, the journeys could be different, but the confidence is stemming from the fact that today there are enough and umpteen examples in India where companies have done it. And when founders are building it in a very meaningful way, we strongly believe that there is large scalable opportunity. Then that's where Yumi opened the first store when we invested in Yumi.
And what are some other brands who went very quickly offline?
I think there are many examples. Jiva, for example, where it's been a great journey for them. Okeda started as an offline because, again, it's in the lab-grown diamond space. So many such examples where companies have meaningfully gone offline very early in the journey. Soul Store is another great example where they went offline and it's been a great journey for them. So brands have now started to, younger brands like even Gully Labs, etc., have started to now go offline very early than what we've seen, let's say, 5 years back.
So, because you are into investing into companies, what type of investments are needed in offline versus a pure online company? Like pure online company must be looking at marketing, team settings and all, right? And when it's offline, what is the capital requirement?
So I think, again, it depends on a company to company, but essentially the first phase where the capital gets consumed is to arrive at the right playbook. What I mean by that is there is a certain capex that goes into setting up the store, and there is a certain amount of funding that goes into getting it to a break even. By that time, usually the brands are discovering as to who is the consumer who's coming to me. What are the problem statements I'm solving for? What is striking chords with the consumer as a messaging? What is converting the consumer? What is driving the repeat footfalls? And how does my store economics work? And once that discovery happens, the next phase of the capital is about how do you take it from 1-3 stores in the same cluster to multiple stores where you will test for, is there cannibalization? What's my marketing playbook for the city or the cluster? Various formats get tested out, right? In terms of small stores, large format, etc., or mid format, in terms of square feet sizes of the store. Is my process around the whole training side working well? Is my operating engine, which is the backbone of the store network, working well? How does my inventory play out? What is the real analytics on the offline stores? I think by the time you get to 7-8 stores in a cluster, which could be a city or in and around areas, the next phase of the capital then goes about expansion in terms of, can you create multiple such clusters? I think from there on the journey moves on. So it is a structured, stage-wise use of capital to arrive at the answer, whether it is clarity of a store, or clarity of a cluster, or expanding into different clusters.
So, how do you measure that the store is breaking even? I think there's something called payback period. But
That's right.
when the initial part is there, how do you determine ki, is this working fine?
So I think payback there are two components of payback, right? You've put in some capex to set up the store.
Yes.
And in the first few months, the payback also, the investment also includes funding, because the store in isolation is not making money. And hence the total investment that's gone into a store includes the capex and the loss funding. Now, once you start break even.
What do you mean by loss funding?
So initially, there are fixed costs to a store. Now, you are spending on the rentals, you're spending on the staff, you're spending on the utilities, etc. And you have a certain revenue number you're driving. It takes time for revenue to build up. Right? The trust with the store, the playbook gets established, etc. By that time, the store may not be today profitable. It takes a few months to start breaking even. When a store in isolation is not consuming funding. From there on, as you scale revenue meaningfully and you start getting profits, is what starts coming into calculations for the payback period. So let's say you've consumed 100 crores. Let's say you've consumed 1 crore for setting up a store. And you've kind of, for the first 6 months of the time the store is break even, you've consumed another 20 lakhs. So your total investment in the store is about 1 crore 20 lakhs.
Achha.
And then let's say by the time you've recouped this money back, it's been about 18 months from the date you opened the store. So your payback period is going to be 18 months.
18 months. Okay. And what's a good payback period?
I think it depends on different categories. What we believe in is that a very good scenario is about 12 months. But usually we've seen an 18-month payback period to be a good one.
And maybe it's after you have achieved a scale, then the payback period, because will start coming in when your template is template-like.
Absolutely. The first few stores do take time to achieve a certain payback. Once your playbook is in place, once you've figured out the operating engine behind it, then your payback periods do shrink.
Yeah. There is this different format, we have heard Coco, Fofo, like the company-owned, company-operated, and the extreme on the other end, franchisee-owned, franchisee-operated. How does a founder decide where to go for in the beginning and where to pivot into?
The first few 50 stores in any business should ideally be a company-owned, company-operated, provided that the capital allows you to do that. Because to me, a true playbook for scale gets built out in that 10 to 50 stores where things will break. Things around training, things around standardization, things around customer experience, things around inventory management. A lot of things around tech, for example, will get tested out. And the more closer you are to that reality, the more closer you are to the consumer, it helps you set up that engine. And then, yes, at the right time, you start exploring a franchising model.
I've seen jewelry companies. One of my cousins has taken a jewelry of one of the biggest jewelers. He was telling me it is a FOCO model. Franchisee owned, company operated. I think so that's where it's the capex funding which they are routing to. Is franchisee a route to reduce the capital need?
I think there are pros and cons of each model. By the capex investment, definitely from the franchisee helps. It comes with the cost of margins, because ultimately the franchisee needs to not only get their own paybacks, but also generate, profits out of it. And hence, ultimately, it's the call whether the brand can see P&L for the next 3 to 5 years play out meaningfully, not only for the brand, but also the franchisee partner. And to me, that's a fine line to walk, to saying, how do you set up right for the franchisee owners to also benefit and stay in the game, as well as for the brands to meaningfully construct an outcome for themselves.
Yeah. So, Ankur, what has changed in this omni-channel playbook in the last 4-5 years? Maybe supply side, demand side, if you could share your thoughts.
I think one, specifically on the demand side, the consumers are very comfortable discovering new brands, new concepts, new products online, go offline, shop for it, experience it, feel the touch and feel of the product, the brand getting experience on the offline side. But what's also important on the supply side of it, I think the ecosystems come together. The founders have become very open to experiment with the omni-channel playbooks early on. And there are many examples in the industry where successfully a lot of scaled businesses have got built out. The likes of Lenskart, First Cry, Sleep Company, Jiva, etc., where meaningfully a shopping environment offline has been created, where consumers are walking in. It's a trust building, it's a brand building as well as conversions. The first port of discovery could have been online. I think the second bit important is how the mall operators, for example, because the consumers were looking for novelty. They've always been looking for the new brands and the choices. In fact, one of the things I keep saying is the era of multiplexes and restaurants, when they were driving a lot of traffic onto the malls, the new age brands are playing that role.
Yeah.
Multiplexes actually have moved to a lot of OTTs, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of new age brands are the reasons why consumers are coming into the malls. And hence, we are now seeing a lot of mall operators look to partner with new age brands, not only in class A malls, but also malls which are coming up.
Yeah.
Because they are seeing that meaningfully play out. I think a third, and India doesn't have a formal high street. And you can't compare an Indranagar as a high street, let's say, to a Lincoln Road. It's different, right? So it's also being built very amicably. Again, then the shopping complexes, both residential and commercial, have different nuances, and you don't have an apple to apple comparison.
I think the only organized high street I see in India is the Connaught Place or the Rajiv Chowk.
That's right.
Like it has been done almost 50 years.
If you just rewind back 5 years back, what brands were there in the Connaught Place, and now you will see a lot of
changes.
In fact, one of the things which I strongly believe in is that the new age brands are the new anchors, especially when it comes to high street, especially when it comes to the market complexes.
Yeah,
they're not
very
really
true. Because hardly any. We used to go to watch movies. That job has made it helpful in by watching Netflix, because every time you watch a movie and says Netflix, तो बड़ा दर्द होता है दिल में ना कि मतलब why did I pay so much money? Yeah,
I think what's interesting, Saurabh, is that consumers are not just walking into the malls and these new brands in their stores. They're actually walking out of the shopping bag. Ultimately, what matters to the brands in the mall is also the fact that consumers are walking away with a shopping bag.
Yes.
And that's the true testament of whether it's working or not. And we are seeing it live. Right? It's happening now where the new age brands, for example, brands like Yumi, when they open a store, there's a long queue. Almost think of it as parallel to what we've seen the Nikes and Adidas do with their drops. Now, to me, that is a great proof point that consumers have made up their mind to come and shop. And they're looking forward to, even before the stores opened up. Those are great examples of what's the world moving to. And the mall operators are seeing it. We're seeing a lot of openness. We're seeing a lot of willingness to partner with the new age brands. They're very open to try out very different kind of models, whether it's in terms of the lease lock-in periods, whether in terms of rental increments, whether in terms of how they are churning out brands which are not seeing that kind of footfall or sales. So I think there's ecosystems coming together. The last bit is when it comes to playbooks, right? Whether it is in terms of how do you build the online pipe to offline, how do you drive retail analytics, for example. Lenscart's used a lot of retail analytics, I'm told, and of course you were driving it. Would love to understand from you as well in the conversation on how Lenskart used retail analytics. I think those kind of ecosystem partners as well as playbooks are coming together. In essence, what's happened in the last 5 years is founders with examples, with proof points, and the ecosystem openness, and with the consumers wanting to do that. It's match made in heaven. And hence you're seeing a lot of brands open stores early on, create those playbooks, and then build it for scale.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when Broadway was open, Broadway, the Biani one.
That's right.
I went to Delhi to visit the store and experience it because it had hosted a lot of D2C brands also. So I went almost like 35 kilometers, spent 1.5 hours on road each side to experience it. It was nice. We're going to a store. Just पहले Big Bazaar had used to drive crowds, and they used to learn from Tirupati's line management system.
That's right.
So अभी तो many malls, मतलब some malls really work, कुछ malls बिल्कुल ही deserted होता है. तो
I think it is more about the novelty. It's more about today's consumer is looking for those new age brands.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it today. There is tech which exists, for example, like a GeoIQ, which can help me almost understand absolute to the detail of what kind of catchment area
you can go.
I am getting into or what I want to get into. Now that's the starting point, which means the chances of a success is so high because you've mapped the catchment area with the right product and the proposition, and then you've gone into the right environment.
Yes.
It's all coming together, and that is what
But
we
you
are
see a
seeing.
lot of mall owners very open to new age brands, structuring the deals in a more easier manner.
Yes, and I think they've woken up to that opportunity and like how. Today, as I said, a lot of mall operators, even before they've launched new brands, in fact, their desire to get new age brands is far, far higher. And they want to see some of these brands being the anchors because the consumers are demanding it.
So, Ankur, how do you work with brands and help them grow? Or it's just the money, or it's the partnership of helping them understand the playbook? So, how does that work?
We are very strong believers that capital, and today the reality is that capital has become a commodity at the end of the day. We go far beyond that. So the first part of it is playbooks, and we continuously keep upgrading some of those as the world's moving very fast in today's AI era. The second is how do we partner with some of these ecosystems? So we've got teams dedicated who works very closely with an Amazon or a quick commerce platform, or Meta and Google for that matter. So the entire pipe from discovery to sales. In fact, how do you work with offline folks like a mall operator, or how do you establish your COCO stores? What kind of signals do you see that the offline store is working? Some of those playbooks and some of these ecosystem partnerships is the starting point. But at the heart of it is the team. We do have people who have great operating experiences in different facets of the companies, whether it is about how do you set up the right people function, how do you think about scaling online GTM. These are folks who've been there, done that. They've seen what works, what doesn't work, what are the blind spots to be avoided. What we do collectively is all of us come together, and as the founders need different spots, we go deep in engaging with these founders, whether it is through our team as well as through the advisors, where interventions are required when the founder needs it. And it is not a cursory conversation. It goes deep into actually understanding the problem statement, working in the trenches with the founders, and ultimately solving for the problem with a view on the big picture and with a view on the long-term value creation. And hence, a collective effort of what all of us bring to the table, meaningfully engage with the founders, leverage our playbooks, our ecosystem connects, our advisors to be able to drive right value for the founders. And that is where our core focus lies.
Interesting. And when you partner with the firms, brands, what are some things you monitor? Like if you could share some, like I'm a very analytical person. So what are some KPIs you monitor, whether it's operational, capital, marketing, growth?
The stage is more about how are you able to see signals of a product market fit, whether it is in terms of the repeats, whether it is in terms of the returns, the retention, the reviews, the ratings. So there are a lot of those which come into play in terms of what are the signals which are indicating that your product is working. Then how do you then build the right NPD pipe to be able to experiment more with the same set of consumers or beyond, and see what's the portfolio construct for your brand. And as you start moving from that journey is about how do you get into the channel market fit, whether it's quick commerce, whether it's offline, whether it is Amazon, whether it's D2C. What's the right, by that time you would have a clarity on who the consumer is, what's your proposition that's working, and hence the signals then you start seeing is, can I meaningfully expand channels?
Can you give me some example of KPIs, and especially in marketplace you look at?
So I think again, different categories have different nuances to it. I can talk about nutraceuticals, for example. When a lot of nutraceutical brands in our portfolio scale on platforms like Amazon, what we're seeing is that it is a lot brand search led, which means that the consumer has discovered or made up their mind to shop. They're coming onto an Amazon platform and shopping for some of these brands. When that happens, and to the tune of 70-80% at times, sales is led by brand searches. There are two things that happen. One, you're not trying to fight to be discovered on Amazon.
Yes.
B, the conversions are much, much higher. Now that to me is a great CM2 profile for a brand which is scaling well on Amazon. So we are consistently seeing a lot of for example, Nutra brands at the right time scale up on Amazon and some of the other platforms. But it's also the repeat behavior.
So you mentioned brand search, which is basically there is a top of mind recall and they are going. So rather than saying, give me the best magnesium gummy, rather than it's the brand name.
Yes. So the brand is not getting discovered necessarily always on Amazon. There is, of course, a set of people who are discovering the brand on Amazon. A lot of discovery is happening outside. So
because of a social media, whatever, word of mouth. Whatever.
That's right. So a lot of consumers are discovering, interacting, trying to understand what the brand is talking about, what is the differentiation, does it talk to their needs and aspirations, and coming onto an Amazon, for example, and shopping. So there are a lot of those kind of consumers in a category like nutraceuticals, where the consumer is coming in with pre-decided brand and the category in mind. And that is when, a meaningful signal of saying, can you scale on Amazon and marketplaces is where we monitor it.
Nice. And when it comes to something different between like it's a only online brand versus an omni-channel brand, what are 2-3 KPIs you really look to know somebody in like 3 questions?
I don't know if 3 is enough, but I think the important point is what's the right, ultimately, whether it's online or offline, what you're trying to solve for is every penny a consumer is spending on my brand, am I able to make it viable from an economic standpoint? And hence the dreaded LTV to CAC ratio, as we refer to, it could be very different in terms of channel, because there will be some cross-channel leverage. B, in isolation, is this channel, it may not be today, but directionally possible to be viable? Because every channel eventually has to be value accretive to the business. And third is the role different channels play could be different in terms of, one could be pure play brand building. One could be a lot around trust, experience, but may not see that kind of conversion. And hence then the choices you make in terms of what kind of capital you're putting behind the channels, what kind of growth you expect from these channels could be different. So it's not a one size fit all or 3 questions. I wish it was that easy, but irrespective whether it's online only or it's an omni-channel, I think there are signals to be derived at the stage, especially at which we come in, and then form a view on saying what it could look like, with the fact that it could be very different than today what we're envisaging.
So you mentioned LTV calc, and so when a brand is new in the first 2 years of operation, how would they know LTV? Because the data point is so less. So
I think there are good early signals that start to show, right, in terms of who is the consumer who's likely to come back. So there's a lot of clarity on not only the consumer profile, but what kind of consumers are coming back. What is driving this LTV, which is essentially what's driving retention for the consumer.
So repeat rates is the most important.
I think more than just the repeat rate, it's the behavior understanding of saying, why are people repeating for folks who are repeating, and also why are folks not repeating? So I think there is a lot of merit in understanding both, and when they are repeating, what kind of behavior they are showing. It is not only important to solve for how do you sell more to the consumers who are repeating, but it's also equally important to address, and it's never going to be 100%, but to say the consumers who are not repeating, whether they are unhappy about the product experience, whether they're unhappy about the post-purchase experience, or in fact smaller things like how's been the unpackaging experience, right? So every nuance of that matters. It's very important or your product is not talking to the right audience. So they bought the product, but after first consumption, they're unsure whether they want to continue. And that is where you see founders go back to the drawing board every time and now, and relook at people who are retaining as well as people who are not retaining. A lot of brands, for example, conduct this concept called ENPS, where they're talking to customers who are not retained to understand why they didn't retain and what were the detractors in the journey. I mean, for example, today when I'm seeing some of the brands, I'll give you an example for Amaha, which is in the mental health space. Today they are trying to solve for people who really need to have couch therapy when they walk into offline clinics. They buy a package, let's say 4 or 5 sessions. Some consumers will see through the journey of 4-5 sessions and then even come back and buy more. There'll be some who will not come back after the first session. The reality is, it is a lot about the chemistry between the therapist and the patient. It is a lot about what strikes the consumer or the patient rather when they walk into a setting which is, a great setting in terms of how Amma has constructed it. But something strikes them to say, what is the path that I'm walking down to? I don't want to be open to anybody else. I don't want to talk to anybody else about my problems. Am I trying to overthink the problem? Now, these are factors which are not in your control. What's in your control is, have you made the best matchmaking in terms of the therapist, the problem, and the kind of the pen profile of the consumer? It's very deep understanding which is required. A lot of data goes behind every conversation. Has to be analyzed in a way, right? I mean, you've been into analytics, and I'm sure you agree that the conversation being analyzed is not the easy one. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond data into behavior understanding. And some of those come into play when you start thinking about building LTV to CAC. I think when you get some of these right, LTV to CAC is just an outcome.
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned the evolution of retention. So, if you look at 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the definition of retention was to just get the customer repeated. And you buy a product 1, now you have to buy product 2, product 3. So that is the very classical definition of retention. During when there was no digital and only loyalty program. Now, if you see the last 4-5 years, especially after the internet boom has come in, it's more about retaining the attention of the person on the website. Traffic aa gaya, app install ho gaya. Now, how do I get them to even buy?
Yes.
You're entered the store. Am I able to get you to experience the product and then buy it? Like we were talking, eye test kara liya, ya you just go and sit on the sofa and then experience it, lie down and just chill out. And then the third definition which I'm seeing now, which is coming, is in the social media world. Okay, so social media mein, if you see, we spend 3 hours and in every 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds, we just swipe up. So retaining the attention in that. And if you see, most people are now looking at the retention graph of the reels. So वहाँ पे जो एक ऐसा आता है ना, if you're going like this or this, and in fact, I also look at my podcast कि लोग कितनी देर में, like people are dropping off at 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes. So that's the big thing which is about retention, and definitely it's about money. And lastly, when you mentioned about ENPS, it's such an important thing. One big mistake which I have seen, Ankur, is लोग ना ENPS को सोचते हैं कि it is about measuring the experience. But what's the question of NPS? How likely are you to have the customer refer to friends and family?
That's right.
So it's not about repeating. मैं जाके next step जा रहा हूँ कि I'm being a advocate, which is a growth metric. It's not an experience metric.
Yes.
But the fallacy what is also happening in the world is कि there are targets on ENPS. Okay, आपने स्टोर लगा दिया, अब स्टोर मैनेजर को बोल दिया योर टारगेट इज टू गेट 70 एंड अबव. वो क्या करेगा, कस्टमर को बोलेगा सर मुझे प्लीज 9 या 10 दो, नहीं तो मेरी इंसेंटिव कट हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा. तो योर दैट मेट्रिक ऑल्सो बिकम्स फ्रॉड. एंड वी हैव ऑल हैव एक्सपीरियंस्ड इन कार सर्विस, विल मेक आवर लाइफ हेल. तो this NPS and all, and the good part is many of these digital companies, they do the service digitally. And now WhatsApp भेज दिया, so it's a little unbiased. Now that's one challenge I have seen, ki please don't put a incentive program on top of this or a performance management, but because the signals will go biased.
Yes. I think a lot of standardization has come into play, especially when it comes to the retail stores. A lot of analytics has got built out, but it is just not about the survey results. It is about how much time your consumer is spending at where in the aisle, where are they picking the products and taking it to the trial room.
It's also become like an aisle level conversion.
That's exactly.
मतलब ये menswear में कितना conversion है there.
And it's also, what ultimately matters is not how many products go into the trial room. What matters is how many products move out of the trial room into the shopping bag.
Yes.
I think with the full analytics possible now, from a walk-in to pretty much the last transaction, it also gives a lot of understanding of how are the consumers experiencing the product, how many of them tried it but didn't buy, and you as a founder are able to figure that out as to the broken journeys and then solve for it. So I think to your point, yes, the surveys do play a very large role, but there is also an all-encompassing view you can build on what's broken and solve for that.
So we were speaking to Tango AI, which is one of the, so they came in, or I think so episode 11 or 12. And we were talking about the store funnel only. So like online mein funnel hai, we have all the steps, this add to cart, checkout, landing page conversion. I think so this whole trial room conversion is one interesting thing. Then aisle conversion and lot more signals ki who are buying, how is the group constituting, मम्मी पापा आ रहे हैं कि बच्चा आ रहा है कि दादा दादी आ रहे हैं, so who's coming and who's experiencing it.
So how's the inventory? I think earlier this information was limited and it was a lot about post facto to saying what's your inventory under the shelf, what is on the shelf, what is as a mannequin, for example. Today those decisions are so fast because you can almost analyze this on a real-time basis to say what's attracting, where is the consumer first walking into the store, where are they spending most time, where are they picking the products, what kind of products are they taking into the trial room, how much time you're spending in the trial room, what is products which come to the cash counter and doesn't get converted still, right, where the consumers are unsure about the products. So there is so much of data and analytics today possible. As I was saying, the playbook getting built out has become far easier with some of these propositions being available to founders and the brands.
Yeah. In fact, traditional retail is very, I would say, pervasive to itna analytics नहीं use करते and tech. So now I think so that's changing a lot, especially with the new age companies pushing a lot of analytics in this. And when I was speaking to Sumit from Yumi, and he was also talking about, because fast fashion, it also multiplies, because you have to change the style so quickly, so you cannot have the shelf, you have to clear out. So the retail analytics is a big thing, much more beyond sales.
That's
like one of the things which I say, the analytics pyramid starts with first sales analytics. पहले तो बिल्कुल करेंगे. The second is inventory, especially in retail. The third will be a little bit of marketing and customer analytics and then marketing. अगर time बचा, energy बचा, तो customer experience पे पहुंचेंगे. So let's dive into some interesting segment of myths. Okay, so if you could share some myths around omni-channel consumer brands which you see many people have.
So I think horses for courses, but let me maybe talk about 3 myths which I have commonly seen sort of play out. I think the first and the foremost most important is what's worked in one store or the first store will not necessarily work for 50 stores.
Achha.
There is a journey from the first to the third to the fifth to the 10th and 50th. And there is a lot which gets discovered, a lot which gets refined. What has worked in Indranagar in Bangalore may not work for you in a Connaught Place in Delhi. There is a context to the city, there is a context to the cultural nuance of how people shop. But more importantly, as you scale, offline is about detailing. Offline is about a lot on processes, right? So what we start to see is, interestingly, a lot of standardization starts to come into play. Training, experience, how do you manage inventory at scale? How do you ensure the brand experience is consistent between the first store, the fifth store, and the 50th store? Some of those are very deep execution level solves. And hence an assumption of what's worked in the first maybe 2, 3, 4 stores will definitely not work in first 50 stores.
And also I think so the first 1 or 2 stores, the founder is himself sitting on the sales engine. So he's very much deeply passionate and involved. So that has to become like a process and playbook.
Yeah, I think it is more about how do you set up those systems and processes and hire the right set of people to build it. That's one.
So that's first.
I think the second important point is today, with what we discussed in terms of ecosystem, the pace at which playbooks getting established, offline doesn't necessarily need to be linear or easy paced out journey. It can be fast. Of course, not reckless, but it can be fast. There is a meaningful way and efficient way of building offline stores and scaling them. Today, there are tools, platforms, ecosystems, and enough examples in the ecosystem where brands have been there, done that. there is a lot of learnings from there. And hence the assumption that offline will be linear, slow-paced growth. I would possibly put that as the second myth. I think the third is what's worked online will not work offline necessarily.
Can you elaborate?
I think online is also about very quick, you've discovered, converted the consumer. Offline, for example, a consumer may take 2 visits to the store to convert. The offline playbook may involve the fact that the repeats may not happen for 3 months for the same consumer. It is also a lot about discoveries on saying how do you stand out, for example, in the mall, which is different than how do you stand out in an Instagram. The attention a consumer is giving to you in the offline versus online will be very different. The operating systems in the offline is going to be very different than the online. Salience, I think one big thing is about the fact that in the right shopping environment, you've got to have the product at the right price point, which is sellable to the audience. You may not have the same product portfolio working in online and offline. So many such examples of things, and hence the assumption of what's worked in online will blindly work in offline gets challenged. In fact, we've seen some great positive sides of it, right? For example, most brands in our portfolio, when they've gone offline in an EBO way, have been able to increase the AOV significantly. And why is that so? Whether you're talking about a sleep company, Gynoveda, I think there are many such examples. So Numi, for example, the offline purchase order value is very different as compared to online.
Because they have tried it, they have touched it,
there's a trust. You see again, today with, as I said, the inventory getting managed, you have the right products, curated merchandise, and hence a consumer is also seeing a lot than what they could see earlier, right? And which is curated for the right audience.
Yeah.
But these are myths from my lens. And somebody who's seen many offline journeys sort of would love to understand examples from you and myths which are blind spots usually.
So it's interesting that you said कि when an online company goes offline, बढ़ जाता है AOV. I would say I've seen other ways also. So interestingly, I'll tell you one story of a brand. That's a brand which is into wedding wear, and when they went online, their conversion and AOV dropped. क्योंकि ऑनलाइन जाके आप ना शेरवानी नहीं खरीदोगे, जाके आप कुर्ता खरीदोगे. So ऑफलाइन they had an AOV of 30-40,000, ऑनलाइन जाके 10,000 के नीचे आ गया. Now अब ऑनलाइन PNL is managed online, तो उसका ROI वगैरह सब निकालोगे. So then the online head started optimizing more for that. So then the reverse problem started happening. When that online customer went offline, he said, मेरे को तो वो सब चाहिए था, ये सब क्या है? ठीक है. So one of the bigger realization is the customer is same. We start trying to manage channels. And when you manage channels, especially when it's a high ticket, high touch product, where you're going offline because you want to give an experience, then you cannot have an online versus offline mindset. You will actually screw the customer journey. So that's one thing which I have seen. You have to have a very unified sales team approach. In fact, not having an online head might be a good thing, because you want to move the people to offline. You give the discovery, कुछ हल्का फुल्का product बेच दो, but you make the online to capture the data, talk to the customer, and try to bring him to the experience center, especially if the AOV is more than 10-15,000 rupees. That's very key. The second issue which I've seen, which people don't realize is, जो आपने भी बोला था, around the second point, where the customer might come offline but might come again and again. Well, it might take time to convert, or he might not come. The problem also happens is if there is a pricing discrepancy between the channels. So for example, I go to the store, मैंने टी-शर्ट देखा, वहाँ पे 700 रुपये का था. I go and click the picture. I go to check मिंत्रा में 700 का 685 का है. मैं को क्या 15 रुपये बचा लेता हूँ. मुझे जैसा कोई बनिया होगा वो यही करेगा, वो जाके उसको खरीद के ले लेगा. अब वहाँ पे तो कस्टमर डेटा मिला नहीं हमें, unnamed customer है. So you might be getting a real repeat, but because you don't have the data, it's not coming in. So D2C companies know the customer in the channels of their ownership. But as soon as the marketplace and all these things come in, so we have to factor in that.
Yeah, I mean, also there are some category nuances to it too. So
where your marketplace is high, especially the more you go GT, say nutraceuticals वगैरह, वहाँ पे आपको नहीं मिलेगा because the speed of delivery on your own channel you cannot match it to what these guys can give us.
Some categories where repeat is by default. For example, in nutraceutical, today if you started to consume, let's say, magnesium to solve for sleep, you will reorder something if it's working for you before the current stock expires. You will reorder to replenish your stock. And as a consumer, then depending on whether the need is to get it delivered in 24 hours to 36 hours to 72 hours and what you are comfortable shopping with, so each channel plays out differently.
Have you tried magnesium gummies?
Not really.
मैंने ना I ordered one pack. गजब नींद आने लग गई थी. फिर then I stopped it. I said bloody it's something like sleeping pills. My son also had once or twice. गजब सोया. मैंने फिर हटा के मतलब I just threw it out.
I use magnesium more for body recovery.
अच्छा. So you talked about myths which founders might have, okay, or the operators might think about. What are myths you have personally thought कि you thought this way, and when you spoke to the founders and you realized यार मैं तो गलत सोच रहा था. Any one or two which came to your mind, and you might be getting these wow moments, no?
Yeah, I think many, and that's what I love as part of my day's job in terms of getting some of these wow moments. I think I never thought that retail can expand so fast. I mean, today, for example, healthcare clinics are kind of moving all like a retail space. I don't think I ever imagined the pace at which today some of these businesses have gone offline and scaled fast to be the reality. I think this, to me, the second, most common fascinating thing is the amount of analytics possible today in the offline setup. Analytics has been a very, very core and important part to online journeys. Now imagine when you've also got tons of data in a structured way and very interesting analytics possible, then you are shifting your focus from channel first to a consumer first straight up.
Yeah.
Because no matter which channel you are on, you're getting great insights on the consumer behavior. And again, there are many, many examples in the portfolio that as and when I hear some of these stories, it gives me a very different rabbit hole to go and see, oh, there is a location intelligence platform. Oh, there are platforms like Tango.ai, for example. There are people who are today able to establish a correlation between one merchandise with the other, saying if a consumer is buying this particular merchandise in my offline store, he or she is most likely to buy this as well. So the kind of curations on bundling that's happening in the stores, the kind of discounts models being created, it's fascinating.
So I'll tell you one example of bundling you mentioned. So I was speaking to somebody who is into shops, like so what she was mentioning is that they saw a bundling of chocolates and cigarettes. Generally cigarettes get bundled with chewing gums, है ना, या chewing gums हो जाएगा या पास हो जाएगा या वो अपना विमल पान मसाला, ठीक है, or maybe chewing gums, mostly chewing gums, okay. And what she said is it was interesting because what was happening is because they are not like a proper pan, they are like convenience retail and like a 24/7 chain, and when you go into it, say father is coming with the son and what will they say, अच्छा मैं बच्चे को ले जाता हूँ बाहर, वो गए अपना सिगरेट खरीदा वहां से और साथ में बच्चे ने चॉकलेट उठाया नीचे से, so that gets bundled.
That is what I'm saying. Today, depending on the profile of the consumer, you will see some very interesting models getting played out, right? So it is not about what I as the brand feel could work in bundling or discounts, etc. It is going much beyond that. It is actually giving you insights into what kind of merchandise you should have in the store.
Yeah.
How do you plan your aisle? How do you plan your inventory? So it is fascinating. And that is what's creating great stories. How brands are able to engage with folks who even never engaged with them online, walked into a store, shopped and went back, or didn't shop and go back, but left behind a data point where they're open for the brand to come and engage with them. And if not today, tomorrow they'll come back to the store and buy something. I think it's one of the best times to build in the omni-channel and the offline side of it, along with the online, of course.
I'll tell you one interesting example of pristine care. So my father had a cataract problem, and we went to the doctor. Then we decided कि करते हैं. Then he went into his evening जो elderly का जो walking होता है उसमें गए तो उन्होंने बताया कि यार मेरा अभी इसका ऑपरेशन है. सो वन ऑफ हिज फ्रेंड सेड यार तुम प्रिस्टीन केयर से कराओ, मैं तुम्हें नंबर देता हूँ, उससे ना बेटर डील मिल जाएगी.
ओके.
ठीक है. तो उसका फोन आया तो उसने कहा ओके आई विल गेट यू अ बेटर डॉक्टर एंड ऑल. तो फर्स्ट ही सेंट अ कार टू टेक हिम फ्रॉम होम टू द डॉक्टर. नो वेटिंग. पूरा चेकअप हुआ. हमारा हेल्थ पापा का इंश्योरेंस वगैरह सारा सेट करवा दिया उसने. देन नेक्स्ट डे व्हेन द ऑपरेशन इज देयर फुल्ली मतलब देयर वाज हार्डली एनी वेटिंग. वेरी गुड एक्सपीरियंस करके आए. एक आंख हुआ फिर दूसरा आंख हुआ. फिर मेरी मदर का था वो हुआ. एंड देन आई रियलाइज्ड माय मदर इवन टोल्ड इट टू 6 people. My father told it to 5 people. So think about that word of mouth. In fact, that one uncle almost got 30-40 people in our societies to buy. So sometimes we really underestimate the power of word of mouth.
Yes.
Because it's not digitized. हम तो अभी customer sitting in the store पे बात कर रहे हैं.
Yes.
We are trying to read what's happening through cameras and all. ये तो hidden है.
Oh, but don't be surprised that some of these new age brands and their stores become a part of social outing for consumers.
Yes.
Where 6 Gen Z friends are coming to a new me and shopping, and that's part of how they are even connecting
Because for
with
their
each other.
event they are going. They might want to twin.
I mean, they are connecting, they want to have similar identity when it comes to the fashion choices. They may want to take each other's opinion, which has always been the case. But now with so much of data analytics possible, you can have merchandise for everyone who's walking in. So, I mean, it's again fascinating.
Yeah. Amazing, Ankur. Great learning so many things. So let's put you on spot further. Okay. So let's do a quick rapid fire. Okay. So are you a cricket person or a football person?
Football.
Achha. I see you are wearing a Whoop.
That's
okay,
right.
What is one metric you define to say that I'm healthy?
My recovery score.
I'll tell you one another interesting thing about Whoop. So Whoop, how did it get popular? Many people spotted Virat Kohli wearing it.
Acha.
Okay, and then it became a lot of conversations. But you know which brand does Virat Kohli represent? Noise.
Ah.
The Noise watches क्या ऐड करते हैं वो पहनते वो पे.
Okay, interesting.
ठीक है. So what is one brand you keep referring to and you keep learning from? कि यार ये इसको and you keep referring उससे जैसे करो.
There are many actually.
So anyone which comes to.
Sleep Company, Jiva.
Not from a portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay. One brand which you missed investing in and you deeply regret.
Fredo.
Fredo. Any other?
I thought you said one brand.
ठीक है चलो. One KPI founders really underappreciate. आपको लगता है इस पे फोकस करो?
I think as you scale, the team becomes very important, and hence how's the churn rate or the retention rate of the team across levels becomes very important.
कम होना चाहिए ज़्यादा होना चाहिए?
Depend करता है retention rate देख रहे हो कि churn rate.
Okay. नहीं people is a very key thing. So which is one AI tool you cannot live without today?
Claude.
Tell me about one book which has really inspired you and you keep going back to it or keep gifting or recommending it. थोड़ा उसके बारे में.
I think there are 2 books which are non-business, which have, I mean, I think I won't say inspired, it was very touching stories. One is Man's Search for Meaning. It is about a story of somebody who went through the Hitler era and narrated the experience about life. And second is Born a Crime, where Travis Noah talks about his own childhood journey. I think these 2 books are something which I definitely have enjoyed. I've read it now multiple times and I have gifted it to many people as well. It is not a business book, but it's a fascinating read and it's a very easy read. And hence it doesn't become a burden to anybody whom I gift that book. But yeah, I love these 2 books.
Okay. And what is one thing which you are on your learning list this year? यार ये सीखना है मुझे. Anything, मतलब nothing to do with life, business, हो सकता है game है, कुछ भी है.
Every year I jot down a lot of learning things. But for me, I've just started learning lawn tennis.
अच्छा.
And tennis is something which I'm trying to start now, learn tennis as one of the racket sports.
Amazing. काफी एनर्जी लगती है टेनिस में.
That's why the nutraceutical helps.
In the recovery. So we are almost at the end of this, and I would want to close it by helping you to summarize the VC playbook for building a consumer brand, especially in this whole omni-channel ecosystem. If you could summarize it in a very 3-point manner, or
I think there are 3 different strokes to it. There is one of the whole product and the portfolio journey of saying which product and how do you start to test out the proposition. So that's one part of the journey. The second is the channel journey of saying the right channels, complementing each other, talking to the right audience and being value accretive at the end of the day, no matter whether it's a discovery channel, no matter whether it's the revenue channel, no matter whether it's the experience or the trust channel. And the third is the capital journey of how do you hence meaningfully then plan the capital. In fact, I would say the fourth one and also very important is how do you have the organization journey of going from founder-led businesses to hiring the right set of people at the right time and letting go of some of those day-to-day operations as well as eventually some part of the strategic thinking. So I think these 4 journeys play out, and what overlays each of these is hence how does your brand play out at different stages and how do you create an iconic brand. I hope that answers the question.
yeah, I have watched a lot of content which Fireside posts on their website. They are amazing. You mentioned a lot of playbooks. I had the opportunity to contribute a few pages on one.
Yes, I remember that.
Amazing playbooks are there. Must read for anyone trying to learn building. Go download and read it. And second, I would say your videos on YouTube. Okay, a lot of the conferences videos I just watched yesterday. Pilgrim's video. In fact, one of my friend is into a pharma company and he was referring to me कि यार I was recently watching a Pilgrim का founder video. मैंने कहा कौन सा Fireside वाला. I think so views उतने नहीं होंगे उसमें वीडियो में, but think about it's reaching to the right audience. So there's a lot of free content which Fireside puts. Go consume, and it's a free world to learn.
Yeah.
And definitely partner with Fireside at some point. So Ankur, you have been with Fireside for 4 years, and my understanding of Fireside is that Fireside helps brands to build and scale up by investing very early stage. And it's not only helping with capital, but helping with building the brand and scaling it up. And I have been fortunate to be recommended by Fireside in multiple places. And you guys have an entire reach, okay? I think so you talk to thousands of brands each year. But what drove you to have this conversation and come on the podcast?
I think the first reason is you. I have enjoyed my conversations with you. I think what drove me was also the fact that the subject of omnichannel, we are seeing it play out in possibly the most interesting way than we could have imagined. Brands in the portfolio, brands outside the portfolio, everybody today has woken up to not just the definition of omnichannel, but building it out in a very meaningful way. So I thought it will always be great to share some learnings of what we've seen and little of what we've seen. I'm sure with the pace at which the world's evolving, there are newer playbooks to be built out.
So thank you very much, Ankur, for coming on to the Dilse Omni podcast. It's great to learn from you. Today we touched upon one area of D2C omni-channel. There is a big world of the FMCG world of nutraceuticals, which I want to deep dive next. So definitely in the next few months, we'll catch up again. And loved learning from you on the amazing examples which you spoke. So thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always great to chat with you. And thought it'd be good to kind of put across our cafe conversations into a
podcast.
So thank you for having me.
Chalo, thank you very much. Thank you for watching Dilse Omni podcast. We love having conversations on omnichannel growth, covering different areas of brand stories, SEO, marketing strategies, investor conversations. If you're someone very interested in omnichannel talks, do subscribe to our channel and also subscribe to our newsletter to get a PDF summary of the conversation. And if there is some interesting guest in your mind which you want to recommend, we have a form down below which you can fill in. Would love to learn more about the questions and conversations you're having in your head. Put a comment below. Would definitely answer each of them. So keep watching us. Looking forward to bringing you interesting episodes every time. Do like, share, subscribe to our channel. Thank you for all your love and comments which you keep sharing.